just to give you a little bit of background on Jill, Jill has her PhD, like I said, from Penn Nursing. She also has her MBA. She has obviously, of course, BSN and MSN. So she is a nurse and has been in the trenches on all sides of this. She's currently at Janssen in the oncology unit and is a member of the early development and clinical team. She is working in the role of a clinical research practitioner, which is for first in human studies using immune oncology approaches, including CAR T cells and T cell redirecting bispecific antibodies. And Joe, I don't know what all that means, but I know that many of our listeners do.
Monica, it is fine.
So I'm just revealing my non-nursing background. So prior to getting in the pharmaceutical industry, I know, Jill, that you were at the University of Penn Health System, where you were clinical director for the International Medicine Program, and you were at Memorial Sloan Kettering before that, working on outcome strategy and as a research nurse practitioner and a clinical registered nurse. So at this point in your career, what I love is that you just like so many of our alums do, you've added on. So Jill also has a new role as a career coach, strategist, and she is the founder of the Career Catalyst program. She's established Jill Vanak Consulting right during this COVID pandemic. And so she has a lot to add today for all of us. And I know you're all really going to enjoy hearing from Jill. So with that, enough from me. Just reminders again, if you have tech issues, feel free to message me or Maddie privately, or just put it in the chat. We want this to be lively, so any questions you have, anything that comes up, let us know, and I'm going to be watching that for all of you, and I'll be inserting some of those comments as we go, Jill. So Jill, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Monica, and it is so wonderful to meet all of you and be here with you tonight. And I was telling Monica, I saw the roster, I saw a lot of the expertise that you all on this call have, and this is exactly why I created the Career Catalyst for women and for individuals exactly like us. So the game plan tonight, I have some slides I'm going to run through, some information to share, but please know this is informal. You can leave a question in the chat. You can speak up, and I will leave time for Q&A at the end. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get this party started here. I said to Monica, you can see my million browsers up. So for that, I apologize here. Okay.
Yes. Well, how long is it going to take?
So leveling up your career. I wanted to start, I know Monica gave me an introduction. Thank you, Monica, for that. To let you know that my career path has been traditional and then non-traditional. I started as a registered nurse at Sloan Kettering in New York and did that for a number of years. I wanted more autonomy. I went back to school, became a nurse practitioner, and I wanted a seat at the table. And for that, I realized I needed a terminal degree. I wanted to write protocols. I was really heavy into research at the time. I went back to get my PhD. At that point in time, I will be quite honest with you, I saw myself plateauing in the academic medical center unless I wanted to go into management. And I decided to go the route of pharma. So I've been across the board in different industries, and we can talk about all of those types of things, but I've been where a lot of you are, and we'll talk. So 80%, that's the percentage of the healthcare workforce that is made up of women. 16%, only 16% of leadership positions in healthcare are made up of women. And 22%, only 22% of full professors at academic medical centers are women. So as you can see, this is disproportionate. This slide sets the stage, the state of the science. Women represent 49.6, or just about half of the workforce in total. 80% of that healthcare workforce. We earn more degrees than men, but the broken rung continues to hold us back. The broken rung, that is the first level of that corporate ladder. When we ask or talk about the broken rung, it's that entry-level management position. For every 100 men who are promoted to a manager after that first job or that first go around, only 85 women are promoted. This gap is even larger for some women. Only 58 Black women and 71 Latinas are promoted amongst that stage. So it's not that the corporate ladder is broken up top. We find that broken rung at the very bottom. As we all know, the research has already started. COVID-19 will negatively impact women, particularly women of color. We are leaving the workforce due to childcare, due to elder care, and to enter back in is going to be a painstaking process. So 11 ways that we can level up our career right here, right now. My first tip, the first thing I do with clients, you always have a current resume. I talk to clients every day, all day. And the resume they pull out has been sitting in a drawer for maybe up to 10, 15 years. It's important to remember a resume is a living document and it should be treated as such. It is your first impression. It is your calling card. The facts. Over your lifetime, the average person will change jobs 12 times. This is not the day of old when someone worked at Campbell's Soup for 65 years and left with a nice watch and said their goodbyes. Now jobs are changing, people are agile, and because of that, the workforce is a different marketplace. So what needs to be in that resume? It needs to be accurate, it needs to be current, and it needs to identify your unique value proposition. This is where a lot of clients come to me for that value. An objective eye is much easier to pull those things out than you yourself. It is very difficult to write about yourself. You want it to be in reverse chronological order. It's targeted for one specific job. A lot of times people say to me, Jill, can I make my resume very broad? I say no, it is better to tweak that resume because you want that employer to know you are targeting that specific position. A work summary, you want to let people know where you're going and where you've been. It is never longer than a page and it is your first impression. So a resume builder, at first, I am expecting some eye rolls with this slide, but I have to tell you, this is tried and true. People start to update their resume, but really that's the last step. The first step is setting that foundation. And a lot of that comes through journaling, comes through setting goals for yourself. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? That is where you start to pull out your skill set and highlight yourself. What I tell people or advise people to do, keep an Excel file. Every month, write down in this Excel file what you've accomplished that month, what stretch projects you did, your metrics. Did I envision and initiate a project that reduced costs by X%? Did I become a member of the Central Venous Catheter Committee? What have you done? We forget. Our brains are very forward thinking, not past thinking. This is going to be the key to getting granular with your resume. You want to quantify. Remember that I give this example a lot, and this will come in handy with resumes, interviews, and speaking with people. Example A, I do a lot of contracts. Example B, I execute 80 contracts per year, which is an increase of 30% over a 6-year period. Which sounds better? I'm going to go with B. Quantify. It allows people to wrap their heads around you, and it gives a narrative. You need numbers and data in everything you do. That includes resumes, interviews, and anything along that line. You want to own your narrative. I worked with a nurse who changed jobs about every year. And she said, Jill, I feel like it works against me. I feel like no one wants to hire me. Spin that story. You know what it does? If you spin, you have to believe your own narrative. She comes in with a plethora of diverse experience. She's worked in a number of different settings. It shows that she is agile and able to adapt to cultures. That's how you spin that. Nothing in your past is a negative. It's how you present yourself. Edit and revamp. Your resume is alive, and it is the first impression that you have with employers. Briefly, this is exactly what I was talking about before. When you're thinking of a new job, you feel stuck. A lot of people want to start at the top of this triangle. Let's go look for jobs. ZipRecruiter, Indeed, here I come. We forget the bottom piece. What makes me unique? What are my skill sets? What are my unique differentiating properties? What are my goals? All of that has to be in alignment before you then narrow down your search. The hunt is the last part of that process. And believe me, it gets a lot clearer when you do that underlying work than if you go into that melee. The second thing, way to level up your career, you want to build a strong personal brand. Gone are the days where social media was not a thing. I say this all the time. I said the only two people I know who don't have a digital footprint, my 91-year-old grandpa, Papa Joe, and serial killers. That's it. Everyone on this call is none of the above. I am hoping. I know you're at least not my Papa Joe. So you have a digital footprint. You need to use it wisely. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean, Jill, I have to go on Instagram tomorrow and post my private life. No, but the number one social media platform you need to have is LinkedIn. Now, to let you know, you're going to get access to these slides. So some of them I will move through quicker than others, but LinkedIn, I used to be a non-believer. I used to say I have a job. I don't need to be recruited. I could care less about LinkedIn. Now I am a believer 100%. I cannot tell you how much it has advanced me in terms of projects, not even other jobs, in terms of my network, in terms of opportunities. LinkedIn is your golden ticket. 77% of employers will look at your LinkedIn. A lot of people have fears that they'll look at my Instagram or my Facebook. No, they're not going down those rabbit holes unless you give them reason to go down those rabbit holes. LinkedIn needs to be up to date. It's important to know there's an algorithm to LinkedIn. You want a complete profile, you want an about page. There are tips and tricks that I'm happy to send you resources on, but it's worth investing. Again, you'll get access to this slide. It's easy to Google. I have a couple books I can give you as well, but LinkedIn should be up to date. You're going to use it and use it wisely. It is a plethora of information. You want to get visible. Get visible on LinkedIn. You can post things. You can comment. Again, engage with other people. Show that you're an industry expert. Show that you have maybe a website. And if you don't, just post articles, get involved, reach out to people, network, build your personal brand. Know your elevator pitch. Be able to describe to me or anyone in the room what you do in 30 seconds or less. What's your purpose? What's your mission? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Get clear on your differentiators. And that's where a lot of people work with a coach. But you know what? Maybe you don't work with a coach. Maybe you start asking your family and friends, what comes easily to me? What do I do well? What am I good at? What am I weak at? Again, get that outside perspective. Start seeing yourself through other people's eyes as well. Get clear on who you are. Be able to tell your career story in a concise way. You make your own narrative. If I sat here and said, guys, it's no big deal. I mean, I just have a PhD. Who's going to believe that hype? If I sit here and say, yes, I studied this, I did this, my expertise is in this, it's what you project. You own your narrative. People are going to believe your hype, but if you don't believe it, that's problem number one. Networking. We could spend an hour alone on this slide and on number 3. Networking is your lifeline. ZipRecruiter, Indeed.com, your chances of getting a job through those online entities, 1 in 250. I don't know about you. I don't have time for that. Mama has no time to send out a resume 250 times. It's going to be through your network. So, what in the hell is networking anyway? A lot of people have nightmares. This is their nightmare, this image. I'm at a cocktail party. I want to get out of here. I don't know what to do. I drop my drink. I feel weird. Sure, that's an aspect of networking. But networking is this. It's talking. We're networking right now. You now know me. I now know you or have a way to network with you. It's connecting. It's collaborating. Break it down. It's meeting someone new. It's talking about yourself. Don't let it overwhelm you. Why do we network? Networking is the gem that keeps on giving. Over 80% of jobs, they're never advertised. My job right now was not advertised. It was created for me. Why? A doctor I worked with 15 years ago at Sloan Kettering is now a big wig at Janssen. She hired me. I'll take it. She knew what I could do. Again, network persists. Networking gets you noticed. Networking doesn't have to be, let me call Monica because I need a job at Penn right this second. Networking can be, how are you? What's going on? Guess what? I'm now top of Monica's mind and she's now top of mind. Maybe I think of Monica. There's an opportunity. Maybe she thinks of me. When something comes up at Penn, she's going to let me know. Again, it's as simple as reaching out and keeping your network there. It's not inorganic. You're reaching out on a regular basis. It helps you to be informed and up on trends. People like to help people. Remember that, especially people who make an effort. I have never once said, sorry, can't talk to you, no time. People don't do that. People want to help you. Reach out. That is the way things get done. Work equals people and people equals work. I think a lot of times we think, oh, I don't have an in at Coca-Cola. It's a huge business. Well, I bet 6 degrees of separation through your network, you can find someone who works there. People make up a business, and that's how you infiltrate. Employee referrals only make up 7% of applicants, but account for 40% of all hires. If I refer you to my company, you're definitely going to get your resume looked at. Why? Companies trust the people they employ. You want to go through. This isn't a back door. This is a front door. Networking is going to be your ticket. The other thing I say about networking is you get to know the inside scoop. Think about it this way. Monica already knows some of my analogies are not great, but let's go with it. This is a dating analogy. What's more likely to be successful? A date online with someone I met on a computer who I barely know, or a date where friends, we have mutual ones, have set us up. I've seen pictures. I know he's not a serial killer. I'm going to go with that one, right? My friends have vouched for him. It works the same way in this type of situation. Why don't people in jobs find each other? Well, people look for jobs one way, employers hire the other. Employees go first to their internal network. I've been asked point blank, Jill, we have an opening. Do you know anyone? That's common. I'm sure you've been asked the same thing. Think about it that way. That's how you get your in. Owning your job search, we can go back to this, but we'll go through this slide. Effective is networking, contacting and warm calling the right people, finding those hidden jobs, targeting those correct entities and companies. Possible but inefficient job sites. I'm not saying never use them. I'm saying make that about 5% of your time. Randomly sending out resumes without a target does not work. Private employment agencies and surfing LinkedIn without a plan. With a plan, that's a whole new ballgame. Hidden jobs. This is a job we spoke about. It's not advertised yet, or it's something along the lines where a company's seeking talent. If you happen to be talent, we'll bring you on. Hidden jobs can be found in a number of ways, but again, most commonly through your network. The power of your network, it's in your second level connections. So think about it this way. Power of your network. Maybe you know Monica who's on this call. You've met her in person, you've worked with her. I'm your second level connection. Monica knows me. Think about it that way. People know people, and that's how you open the door. This is a very cutesy network map. I hope all of you have seen the movie Love Actually. If you haven't, watch it during Christmas. It's adorable. But the reason I put this slide on here, this is a pretty good network map. So when you draw out a network map, I tell all of my clients, and I do this every 6 months, you draw yourself in the middle and you bucket. Who are my contacts from college, from my employment, past employment, softball team, PTA, book club. Your network is your net worth. That saying is old and tired, but guess what? It's true. So think about it. I update my network map every 6 months because you know what I do? Every Friday, I have a half an hour slot on my calendar. I treat it like gold. I network with someone I haven't talked to in a while or someone brand new. Trust me, when that half hour is worth the entire week's worth of meetings on that calendar. So that's something you can implement today. The most unlikely people have those nuggets for you. Trust me. So to make a network map, we can breeze through this, but you'll have these slides. You put yourself at the center. I'm a huge nerd. I get a whiteboard. I put it up in my closet, or of course, when we're back in the offices, I draw out my whiteboard because it helps me visualize and I map out who I want to reach out to in the next 6 months. There's many ways to do it, but visualization, visualize your network. Now, after you visualize your network, if it's someone you know, great, but the real goal is to reach out to people you don't know. So you want to choose people to warm call. That's what I call this. You're going to email them. You're going to make it personal. You're going to press send. You're going to follow up. So with that being said, when you reach out to someone in network, be crystal clear about what you want. So for those on the call who feel stuck or who are looking for a new job, this is how you start. This is going to get that brain flowing. Talk to people. Now, when I say be clear about what you want, be clear about what you want. Here's my worst nightmare. Hi, you don't know me, but can I pick your brain? We can go for coffee. I literally think I just had a heart attack. No, we can do none of the above. My brain goes to, how long am I going to be there? I don't know this person. Do they want 2 hours of my time? Be clear. Here's what I'll respond to. My name is Sally. I came across your profile on LinkedIn. I'm highly impressed. Who doesn't love an ego boost? I would love 15 minutes of your time to talk about your transition from a nurse practitioner into industry. Please let me know what works for you. I can accommodate your schedule. I'm in. I'm going to talk to Sally. I know what she wants. And guess what? I can do my homework. I already know what she wants to know about. Maybe I give her names of colleagues who have done the same transition. I'm ready to talk. You've let me prepare for that call. I'm much more willing to engage in that. So we don't use phrases like pick your brain or get coffee unless you know the person. That's going to be your worst nightmare. Accommodate their schedule. And of course, when we get back to meeting in person, I shouldn't have to say this, and I know I don't need to say it to this group, but your mind would be blown. I do need to say this. You always offer to pay. You make their life easier. They're the ones doing you the favor. Even though this is how networking works, they're going to want to meet with you, trust me. Subject lines I've included in this slide deck for you. You want the person to open the email. I went to Georgetown for undergrad. I'm never not going to open an email that says, fellow Hoya. Now, could be spam, but I'm going to open it. Again, think of the ways you're connected. Say Sally connects you with someone. That subject line should read, Sally said I had to meet you. I'm going to open that up. I don't want to disappoint Sally. I've included this in the deck for you. A lot of my clients and a lot of people I talk to just have trouble kind of getting the engine started. This is a template you can use. It's an email that you could send out for your warm call. Of course, you change this to meet your person and your skill set, but it's a template to get the ball rolling. These are, again, lead-ins that we talked about and the follow-up. What I will say is, it shocks me how many people I have, how many clients. I'll say, did you hear back from Joe? They said, no, Joe never wrote me back. Okay, well, we're going to reach out to Joe again. Because guess what happens? I have the best intentions of writing something back, but you all know, maybe you got a patient on the table. Maybe you were ready to send an email, and guess what? You know what hit the fan? Follow up. People will be grateful. I would respond back, thank you for your patience. I would love to meet. Here are dates I'm available. Don't hesitate to follow up with people. It's not personal. They will meet with you. Again, there's a boundary. After the second or third email, we're going to call it a day. But again, give them that chance to follow up with you. Number 4, what you can do right now in your current job, ask for feedback. We fail to do this, and it is the best thing we can do for our career. Now, a performance review. I remember these look a little bit different in corporate versus in the hospital. At least for me, they did. In the hospital, my performance review was very, you got all 3s, good job, here's your cost of living raise. Okay. Corporate, it's a little bit different, but no matter what, you want constructive feedback. You want to take that one-on-one time with your boss. What can I do better? What do you see as my skill sets? You're going to learn about yourself and how you're perceived in the workplace. Yes, people don't always love feedback that's not always positive. It's how we learn. I'd much rather someone tell me that. So be proactive about it. If your boss doesn't have one-on-one meetings with you, set them up. Ask if you can meet. I meet with my boss every week. I'm the one who sets up that agenda. Why? It lets me know I'm track. It gives me that time to speak one-on-one without 80 other people in a meeting. Employees who proactively ask for feedback and implement it are shown to be top performers. It'll help you meet expectations and avoid miscommunication. Feedback and one-on-one meetings are everything. You can start to implement them. Depending on what type of job you're in, I am crystal clear about my career trajectory with my boss. That is the one thing I will say though. I don't know about your situations, but in the hospital, it was very hush hush. What do you mean you don't want to be a nurse practitioner forever? What do you mean you don't want to leave Memorial Sloan Kettering? This is the best place to work. Why would you leave? Why would you go anywhere else? You're going to run into that. I used to run into that a lot in the hospital. Of course, you need to be cognizant of who you're speaking to, but there are going to be mentors and sponsors for you that will allow you to see other directions. Maybe you don't take them, but will allow you to see all of your options. So remember, what you're going to encounter, I describe it like this. You're going to be a flamingo in a sea of doves. In nursing, again, I will speak for myself. There were a lot of doves, amazing doves, but think about the night nurse who's been there for 40 years. That dove does not want to be bothered. That dove is good on night shift. She knows her stuff. She's got her nest. She's good. That's fine. But I just started to recognize I was more of a flamingo. So let me start talking to other flamingos and see what they're about. Remember, you've got to build that network. 5, stretch. Now, I don't mean a 7th inning stretch that we're all going to stand up and take a big old yawn, right? I mean stretch yourself, stretch projects. They exist in every nook and cranny. You've just got to find them. A stretch project, maybe you join a committee. Maybe you volunteer to float. Maybe you take on an assignment that you normally wouldn't do it. Stretch yourself. In corporate America, at least where I am, say I was interested in late development. They would allow me to do a stretch project to see if I liked it. It's almost like a tryout or a little bit of an internship. Yes, you're going to take on more work. You don't give up your normal job. You get to see if you're a fit and they get to see your skill set. Start branching out. App Show, I used to be a member of and still am. ONS. There are many ways to start expanding your reach outside of your current role. Say yes when you don't know the how. Stretch. People will respect that. Be confident, showcase your skills, and own your development. Back in the day, I used to do a lot of consulting when I was a nurse and nurse practitioner. We take for granted our clinical skill set. I'll be honest with you. MBA, PhD, What helps me right here, right now in my job, every single day, my clinical expertise. Every single day. Just this morning, I was looking at what's a dose limiting toxicity. I needed to know grade 3, grade 4, AST, LLT, ALT, liver enzyme toxicity. MBA didn't teach me that. You're going to get hired for your clinical background. Right now, it seems like every Tom, Dick, and Harry has those clinical skills because you're in the hospital. Guess what? They don't. So again, that's one of your superpowers. Hone it. Project confidence. This goes across the board. You need to project confidence. So imposter syndrome, we all tend to have it. The more type A you are, the more accomplished you are. Studies have shown the more you have it. It's a psychological phenomenon in which people are unable to internalize their accomplishments. It's dependent on a lot of circumstances, but people who are perfectionists, who fear failure, have this. It can be super debilitating and can limit your progress. So what do we do about that? What's been shown to work research-wise, voice your feelings, talk about it. Talk about it with your colleagues, with a trusted friend. The more you get it out and normalize it, the less it affects your day-to-day life. And that's been shown in studies. Write down your achievements. I keep a box, and you're gonna think it's silly. Like, you know how you keep old love letters from like your 6th grade boyfriend or girlfriend? Think about it that way. I keep notes that patients have sent to me. I keep trinkets that they gave me. I print out emails where someone said, amazing job. A lot of times, if I'm having a bad day, I know this sounds crazy, I'll look in that lockbox. This is why I do what I do for that patient or for this family. Again, remember your purpose behind it. Write down your achievements and everything you've accomplished. Remind yourself of that. It works. Strong support system and earning it. So Mindy Kaling wrote a book. I am blanking on the name. She was an actress in The Office, but is a producer and very well known in Hollywood. And she said, or someone asked her, how are you so confident? And she said, I've earned every ounce of that confidence. It's by getting in the ring. It's by doing things that you're not comfortable doing. Earn your confidence. Start honing that. That underlying structure is the best thing you can do. 7, be persistent. There's no slide after this. Be persistent, meaning it's hard not to take things personally, but don't. Take that feedback, take that constructive criticism. If you want a goal, make it happen. Be persistent. That's half the game. 8, your personality matters. Now, I cannot tell you how many times I've been in the room with HR and we're looking to hire someone. I kid you not. This has been said to me more than once. Well, Jill, they did not send me a follow-up email to thank me after the interview. They're out as a candidate. That stuff's real. Call it petty. I call it why shoot yourself in the foot. Do the things that are proper etiquette-wise and be a kind, good human. Remember, at the end of the day, an interview, an interaction networking, it's human biology and psychology. This sounds crazy, but I am sizing you up in 7 seconds. It's biological. Are they prey? Are they a predator? Is this person going to eat me? Do I get good vibes? We've carried that through in evolution. You size someone up right away. Be a nice person. I cannot tell you how far that's going to take you. Truly. Backdoor conversations, that's a lot of what it revolves around. Things like that. If it's a level playing field and everyone has the same skill set, guess what's going to set you apart? All of that. All of you being a kind person. You'd be shocked. Plan your career. The worst sentence, the sentence that gives me agita. Well, I just never thought about my career. Just seemed like jobs fell in my lap and I took them, and that was it. No, we don't play that game. You don't just take things. They don't just fall in your lap. We are going to be proactive. You need to set your sights on what you want. Now, I do this exercise with my clients. And again, I know the eye rolls are going to come. Most of you don't have your cameras on, so that's great. You can eye roll away, because I give my clients an exercise and I say, I want you to go into a room, no TV, no phone, no distraction, no kids, no dogs, pen and a paper. And I want you to visualize who you are in 5 years. And I want you to write down to the nth detail. What do I smell like? What perfume am I wearing? What am I dressed like? Am I single? Am I married? Am I in an apartment? Am I in a mansion? What car am I driving? How do I feel when I go to work? Do I carry a briefcase? Detail by detail. Getting granular allows your head to start getting in that space. What do I really want? And you know what? A lot of people don't do this exercise. Here's why. They're scared. Looking at your career, looking at yourself is hard stuff. People don't want to dig that deep. People don't want to analyze. And that's what's already going to set you apart. You're on this call for a reason. You're already starting to dig through the mud. It gets muddy. No one said it's going to be a skyrocket and you're going to get the next job you apply for. This stuff is hard. It ebbs and flows, but trust me, if you do the work and lay that foundation, you're going to get to the other side. Now, a way to do that. Cue the eye roll again, but trust me, this works. Now, if I asked you right now to set a SMART goal for your hospital, your unit, your job right now, guarantee you, every single one of you could set that SMART goal in about 5 minutes flat. So, a SMART goal. It's just an acronym for a method. S stands for specific, M is measurable, A is attainable, R is relevant, T is timeline. It's a way to set goals. I set goals for my organization all the time. When's the last time you set a goal for yourself, though? Think about it. Think about this. A lot of times people set a goal like this. I want to lose weight. Guess what? That goal never works. Why? It's not a SMART goal. Be specific. How much weight do you want to lose? Is it measurable? How are you going to know? Inches, a scale, how your clothes fit? Is it attainable? If I said right now I want to lose 300 pounds, that's not going to work. Is it relevant? Does it get you to where you want to go? Is it a part of your trajectory? And what's your timeline? Measure yourself. People don't set goals. Goals are going to keep you on track. Write it down. Put it out into the universe. Hold yourself accountable. What do you want to accomplish and when? The act alone of writing something down allows that to come to fruition. Studies have shown it allows you, it increases your chances of making that happen. Set goals for yourself. Again, people all the time say, I'm busy, I don't have time, I'm so overworked. Think about it this way. Are you too busy for yourself? Do you want to continue in the job you're in and 5 years from now you say, well, it just fell in my lap and I didn't really do anything about it? No, you want to be proactive. Now, the other thing with that is studies show that after 3 years in the same job, your skills start to plateau. Now, I'm not saying that to say you need a job every 3 years. What I'm saying is you need to add a new component. To stay fresh in the marketplace, to stay fresh here, you need to be adding things in after that 3-year mark. You never want to get so good you're complacent, because that is a recipe for disaster. Those are the people who are not hired. Think about it this way, and this is going to be a stereotype, but I'm still going to stick with it. When I was in the hospital, you know who I would go to for a lot of my questions? The fellows. Why? They're in that sweet spot. They're just out of school, but they're not so maybe complacent as an older attending who I just do it because I do it. I give Lipitor because I give Lipitor. The fellows are in that sweet spot. Think about being a fellow. You want to stay in that sweet spot. You have all the knowledge, but you're still hungry. This is just another slide depicting how to do a SMART goal. Again, there are many resources out there. This is one method. It's a method I really like, but it's a good one. Make them specific. 10, find a mentor. Now, this is where a lot of people will come and say to me, Jill, will you be my mentor? Now, that's not quite the way to do it. You're going to find a mentor organically. Guess what's going to lead to that? Networking. Think about the value you can add to someone. Make it worth their while. You don't have to say the phrase, will you be my mentor? You can say something along the lines of, Jill, I was looking at your social media feed and I realized you don't have any reels. You don't do any videos. You know, I'm an expert in that. I would love to help you do that. And maybe we could sit down and you could talk me through how to network map. I'd make that trade in a hot second. Think about what you can bring to the table. Mentors, it's going to be an organic relationship. And think about it this way. Think about it in that same as maybe a spouse or significant other. They're not going to be your everything, right? Maybe you go to your best girlfriend for some things. Maybe you go to your mom for other things, right? That's the way it is with mentors. They don't need to be all encompassing. I have a mentor who I go to about social media. I have a mentor at my job. I have a mentor in terms of bigger career scale and how to implement my purpose. I have a lot of mentors. Again, organic process, but it's through networking. A sponsor and a mentor is your best ticket. The other thing I like to say, now, women loves women. I love seeing other women rise up, but a lot of my best mentors have been men. Do not let yourself get boxed in. Don't think it has to be a woman. Don't think it has to be a nurse. Your mentor can come from many areas. Don't box people out because, again, the most unlikely people sometimes are going to be your best advocates and your best resources. Final tip, number 11, self-promotion. Now, research shows we as women have a much harder time with self-promotion than men. That is objective and fact-based. That is something, it goes along with tip number 6, that confidence. This is now the day and age, you have to self-promote. How do you do that? Own your narrative. Own your story. When I coach people in an interview, I say, listen, going through it in your head does nothing. I say, you need to talk to the mirror. You need to answer your dog. You need to talk to your cat. Own your story. Project your confidence. Practice verbalizing you. Take a stretch project. That's a way to boost your confidence. It's a way to self-promote. Sign up for that committee. Volunteer. Send a monthly email to your boss. Have a one-on-one, but maybe you send a monthly email. This is what I've done over the past months. These are my accomplishments. Again, keep that running list. Own your voice in meetings. I will never forget to this day, I'm sure you're all aware of Sheryl Sandberg, and she wrote the book Lean In. I literally took her at her word. I finished the last page of the book. I have never sat not at the table in a conference room ever since I finished her book. I never sat in the corner, because that mentality is other people are more important than me. Other voices are more important than me. I literally took that literally and sit at the table. Now, of course, I want to bring my voice to the table. I want to say things in terms of an educated manner. I want to bring value. But again, you have to believe your own hype, not wilting away like a wallflower. Believe your own hype and have an agenda. Have a game plan. It's not manipulative. It's smart. Where do I want to go? Again, this goes back to your foundation. What do I want to get out of this meeting? What am I looking for? Self-promote. This is where LinkedIn comes in. This is where the newsletter at work comes in. If you don't tell me, how am I going to know what's going on? I won't. You have to be your biggest cheerleader, because that is what's going to get you from A to Z. So those were all my 11 leveling up career tips. Of course, we could go into these individually and spend an hour on each, but these are things you can implement right here, right now, no matter what your situation is. And of course, I want to open up the floor to questions, but I am going to be my own cheerleader right now and let you know that although I work at Janssen full time in first in human trials, I started this business during COVID. I saw a huge need for women to self-promote, to learn how to get from A to Z and be equipped with the skill set to do that. So this is my business. Follow me on Instagram, on Facebook. You can contact me on my website. And I know Monica said this at the beginning. Email me, network. Jill, can I have 15 minutes of your time? I am here. Any questions, anything you want to follow up on, I am more than happy to help, point you in the right direction. And Monica, I am happy to answer questions. Of course, you know me and my technology. I did not see anything in the chat, so I don't know if I should throw it back to you or not.
No worries. Yeah, no problem. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So Jill, amazing. Thank you.
Of course.
I feel like I've got, and I'm sure many of our folks do, like this list of things now that I know I have to sort of get working on. Not that I'm going anywhere, but for those of you who are looking for another position or just thinking about this is a really helpful tip. Yeah, no, it's terrific. So we do have a bunch of, a couple folks put some things in chat that they're looking for, and I'm going to encourage people to continue doing that. We had a number of questions too that came in advance. And so I feel like there are two things, well, a number of things that keep coming up, but some of the things that stand out for me is the idea of people have mentioned being burnt out, frustrated. They feel like they're lacking vision, and they're looking for just like what's out there, what's the best way to go. And so I think, sometimes that's a space where we end up wanting to just sort of, chitty chat with the folks we know and say, oh, I'm so frustrated. It's like not working, and this is happening and that's happening. And there's a place for that, right? But how do we use that frustration that we're feeling as a catalyst to move us to the next level? What do we think about? How do you recommend we use that as some fire to think about our future career?
So I think this is a great question. And I have to say again, with the people on this call, you being healthcare workers, burnt out is your middle name. And COVID is causing everyone to reprioritize. And we all know this. We all have friends who have said, I'm moving to Montana. I'm going to go in a trailer. I'm going to live across the world. People are reprioritizing what their values are, and that includes how they spend their days at work. With that being said, number one, I do advocate you talk about it. It is good to let that out. Voice your frustrations to a source that will listen. But action is the name of the game. I think too many times we get to a boiling point and we allow it to spill over, but we take no action, and we know that that flood is coming. So a lot of the action you can take was in this slide deck. What I say, or what I think is, birds of a feather tend to flock together. And for instance, I work with a client who's a teacher and wants to get out of teaching. I worked with her on a network map. She said, Jill, every single person I know is another teacher. Well, birds of a feather, that makes sense. You have to start opening up your horizons and opening up your eyes to other opportunities. That's a time to go on LinkedIn. I go on LinkedIn all the time to get inspiration. Does someone have a profile like mine? What other job titles exist that I don't know about? And the reason I tell you that on this call, Monica introduced me at the forefront as a clinical research practitioner. Guess how many of those I know? It's a made-up title. It was created for me. So what do I mean by that? I mean, you can use your talent and think outside the box. Your career does not need to be linear. Think about doing some consulting. Maybe you get a foot in the door somewhere. It's all about networking and talking to people and making yourself visible. Start building your personal brand. A lot of times my clients will say, well, I'm not an expert in anything. Make yourself an expert. I'm not saying you go around and lie like I'm an expert at making Cheetos. I'm saying hone your craft. If not you, then who? Because you are an expert. It's a matter of leaning into that. Let people know what you're doing. The other thing is put it out into the universe. I let everyone and their mother know when I'm looking for a new job. Obviously, that comes with a grain of salt in terms of your current job, but everyone in my network, if you know of any leads, let me know. I'm looking. Start exposing yourself to opportunities that aren't along that linear path. Again, I would not have known pharma was an option unless I met someone at ASH, which is a hematology conference in pharma, unless I started doing consulting work. Again, really start opening up your network. That's going to be that domino effect, because I am going to introduce you to Joe, and Joe's going to introduce you to Sally, and you're going to start to see opportunity.
Thank you, Jill. I think that is another, real big group of questions here. I'm looking to move from clinical to research, from clinical to academia, from clinical to consulting, all these different moves outside of the clinical space. And I think for a lot of folks, I'm guessing here, so correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the world and I know the world that I know, right? And it feels scary to make that step. I don't know how to get from here to there. I loved what you said about having an MBA and being a nurse, and that, on some level, right, a lot of people in the world have MBAs. A lot of people have business backgrounds. A lot of people can do that side. Everyone on this call has a very specific skill set and a really unique set of tools and a toolkit and a way of thinking about things that can translate into a really amazing world of careers and bring a lot of value to those other positions, whether it's healthcare, academic, or whether it's consulting, or whether it's completely different spaces. I remember a call we were on not that long ago where someone was talking about all the money that's out there for changing healthcare.
Yes.
It might not all be in academia and in the healthcare system. It might be in all these startups who frankly don't have nurses, nurse practitioners, advanced practice nurses on their boards, right? We know this. So you are a really unique voice. It's going to take some networking and some maneuvering. But Jill, these are just the things I'm taking from what I'm hearing for you.
Yes.
That's what people are asking about.
And Monica, I think you hit the nail on the head. What I would love to say to everyone on this call, imposter syndrome is real. Here's the deal. Do not ever forget, you're sitting here on a call, you went to Penn. I don't know about you, but last time I checked, it was the #1 school internationally. We're not talking about Podunk U or the local community college. No offense to that. Use the name. You're at an Ivy League institution. Act like it. People look at that. I told Monica this before, and people can disagree with me all they want. When someone looks at my resume and sees where I went to school, I could be the dumbest person that they've interviewed all day. Guess what? The door's open. Schools and what you've done open doors. Use it to your advantage. Do not forget where you went to school. Do not forget your pedigree, and do not forget your skill set. Again, you need to double down on that confidence, because that's what's going to take you to the next level. Jobs opportunities are opening up across the board. Monica is spot on. There are insurance companies that need clinical practitioners. I have friends who work anywhere from travel agencies to bio startups to JP Morgan to, again, your clinical expertise is bar none. Right now, you're birds of a feather. You're like, everyone knows how to change a central line. Everyone knows how to detect sepsis. No, they don't. Remember that. It's all about that skill set and owning your narrative. Think about your critical thinking. Think about what you can do. Plus, I'll tell you right now, we deserve it, but nurses are hot right now. People are slowly, real slowly, but they're coming around with COVID, starting to recognize this skill set. You want to jump on that marketplace when it is hot and you have those opportunities. It's how you identify your unique value and how you start to spin your own narrative. So start looking in business, start looking at corporate America. Find people like me who've made the transition on LinkedIn. Talk to them, ask them, network. That's how you're going to break out.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Jill. I think that's such a great pep talk that we often need to hear, right? Just the expertise that you all have, that name behind you, and the hard work that you have put in to get there, leverage that. So I want to mention two things, and folks have mentioned the Alumni Network here a couple times. You do have this network. You have each other here today. And you have your 15,000 plus Penn Nursing Alumni Network around the world. And then you have your 300,000 plus Penn network, right? That's also around the world. And there are ways to connect with those folks. There's the Alumni Directory. It's like the LinkedIn for Penn. Get in there, tool around, see what people have done. Ask them for 15 minutes to see if they're interested. You could connect with an engineer about a product you're thinking of making. You could connect with a Wharton grad around something that you want to market or think about bringing to scale business-wise. They are great connections. Remember, you have get lost and let them take over, but bring that to the table and find the partners that you need, because Penn does open that door for you. The other thing I want to mention too in the mentoring space is we do have an alumni mentoring program. Students can be mentored by alumni, alumni can be mentored by alumni. So that's specific to the School of Nursing. If you're interested in it, we'll drop that in the chat and we'll put it in the follow-up email along with the slides and the recording. We'd love to have you take part in that. We want to do more creative things in this space as well. So if there's something you need that you don't see, let us know. Because we want to be partners in making sure that you feel like you can achieve all the professional goals you want to set. Penn Nursing wants to be alongside for this ride with you. It's not just a 4-year or a 2-year or whatever it is process. Hopefully it's many, many years, right, that we can travel along with you. So let us know that. There's a really specific question here, Jill, that I want to ask from the chat. And I want to broaden that even. I want to answer Hillary's specific question about money, but I think, money is it's an important thing. It's something that I think some of us shy away from talking about. We feel like it can feel like not a comfortable thing to talk about, but we have to take care of ourselves. We want to have family to take care of. It's important, right? What we make matters. And I have someone that I might consider a mentor in this space who often says, well, what do you see yourself making for the life that you want to live in so many years, and what steps are you going to take to get there? So I love your advice in that space. Here's a specific question from the chat. She said she's wondering what your advice is for someone who's performing well at their job and wants to advocate for compensation increase, right? So do you mention that outside recruiters are giving offers? You're trying to pit this against someone? Do you express interest in doing some kind of a move? What's the best way to take that on and to sort of say, I'm worth more here? How do we have that conversation?
That is an excellent question. And Monica, to your point, I think we do not speak enough about money and compensation. So I'll be very honest on this call. That was a huge factor for me and why I left the academic medical center and the hospital. At a certain point, I began to plateau. And the compensation, benefits, and other things outside of the organization I was at were just more in line with my career trajectory. So just know that outside of the hospital is a different world. Now, what I would say, Hillary, hello, is that you need to come prepared. Again, I told you I was going to have horrible analogies, right, guys? You're going into battle. You need to be prepared with data and quantifiable information before you step foot into that room or that performance review with your boss. And this is where that lockbox or that Excel file comes into play. Every month, you're going to look back, look over your resume. What have I done? And be as granular as possible. Something that doesn't speak to me is I took care of patients. Something that does speak to me is I implemented an E. coli infection preventative initiative that reduced rate of sepsis infections on the floor by 10% over the months of February through March. Now I'm listening. Give me quantifiable data. You are never going to impress if you go in and say, well, I've been here 2 years. Where's my raise? You need to come to the table with data. So what I would say to that is be weary is the best word. Again, I don't know specifics and we can talk offline, but be weary with leveraging an outside offer unless you're willing to take it. What do I mean by that? I would not bring up specific numbers or a specific offer unless you are ready and willing to walk away to that offer, because you definitely don't want to play a game of chicken and you be left out with no options. So with that being said, you can absolutely use outside offers for negotiation. And I advise people all the time. I know it is time consuming, but there's a job or an offer that you're semi-interested in. Go through that interview process. You don't know what they're going to lay out on the table, because here's what we forget. Salary is only 70% of the equation. The other 30% are benefits. Things like flexibility, matching 401k payments, stock options, long-term incentives. That 30 can add up very quickly. So again, just make sure you know what is on the table, but I would be weary of coming in with an outside offer unless you actually have that offer in writing. Remember, if it's, now this is what I got from nursing. It's not documented, it's not done. Live by that no matter where you go. A written offer, if you have it, you can absolutely use that as leverage and negotiate properly, but be willing to walk away if they will not meet you. Numbers. Bring in quantifiable data. If you're good, if you're talented, a good manager will try to do everything in their power to keep you and get those numbers up. Just know that in some jobs they have bands. You're going to max out, and that's when you need to start looking in a different direction.
Thank you, Jill. Folks, I know we've hit the 8 o'clock hour. Jill, I think that we've agreed that we can go a couple minutes over.
Yes.
If folks have a couple more questions. So if you need to leave, totally understand. That is completely fine. But if you have other questions you want to ask, feel free to raise your hand, to put that in the chat, to just, verbally jump in here, because I want to make sure that things that you were asking about in advance, or just are on your minds, that you have a chance to take advantage of Jill's time here tonight and use that. So you'll see that in the chat, we did put the link in for my Penn. Thank you, Maddie. Which is the Penn Alumni Directory, where you can connect with other alums. Also, feel free to follow each other on LinkedIn and places like that. And you saw the mentoring link as well, hopefully in there. But again, we'll follow up with that. So any other questions about this? I know some things that came up in advance were around, and Jill, this is something I remember you talking about, how to advocate for yourself in a very physician-dominated space. And I think you have an interesting story about what you did to do that. And I'm curious if you can share that with folks who might be looking for some advice.
So I think this is a great question, and it's sort of unique to what we all share in this healthcare or hospital setting. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of this boils down, I know you're going to be sick of me saying it, owning your narrative. I think a lot of times and I'll speak for myself, would defer. Well, I'm just the nurse, or I'm just this, or I'm just that. You're not just anything. Number one, lose that from your vocabulary. It's almost like, you know how a lot of women are conditioned to say, I'm sorry. Oh, you cut in front of me? Oh, but I'm sorry. No, we lose that from our vocabulary. It's not going to happen overnight, but you're not just anything. I think for that, you need to hone in and recognize your unique skill sets and what you uniquely bring to the table. So that's number one in terms of this physician-dominated field. I am not here, though, to also sugarcoat things. I'll be quite honest with you, especially when I was at Sloan Kettering. It is a completely physician-dominated environment. Physicians had benefits that nurses did not have. And again, physicians were just seen in a different light. That's all well and good. It's about finding your unique path. So again, think outside the box. Think about what you can bring to the table with your unique perspective. Maybe you start an initiative. Maybe you start a program, but also don't be afraid to sit in on rounds and be colleagues. Again, people want to speak to you. People want you as a part of the conversation. I will never forget when I just started as a floor nurse. After my first year, I realized that none of the nurses would stay in rounds when we would go room to room. And I thought, this is insane. I'm going to get information. I'm going to tell them what I need for the day and the patient's status. So I started inserting myself right in the middle of rounds. And again, I'm not saying that to say I was a bull in a china shop. I'm saying that that respect level started skyrocketing. All of a sudden, physicians would be like, where's Jill? What's the patient doing? What do they really look like? Again, you have a skill set that other people don't have. You need to really hone that. I think the other thing is, don't think that's just in the hospital. In my current job at Janssen, in pharmaceutical company, here's the deal. They're having a tough time finding physicians to run these clinical trials in early development. I've been brought on as the first nurse practitioner to run a clinical trial. So basically, they're using the clinic model. I have a medical director per se, but if I get up to snuff and I can prove that I can do this role, now he can take on 3 trials and I'm really running this one. So think about it. They created this role. I'm a pilot project. If I do well by NPs, they're going to hire more. So again, these roles exist. People are seeing the talent in the hospital and outside of the hospital. Double down and use that talent. Again, lean in where you went to school, what your degree is in, the knowledge you have, the expertise you have. Again, you're not trying to dominate a physician-dominated world. You're trying to dominate your own world. Find your own niche. It's not A to B. Maybe you go A, E, D, G and find it that way.
Thank you, Jill. So just in wrapping up here, I think there's so many things that you've shared that are just so great, you know, and I'm just trying to wrap my brain around all these things I want to like dive into and tick off a list for myself and for others. It seems like, you know, some people know where they want to go, right? And they're just not sure how to get there. And I think you've given us some great tips on how to build your network out, find that space. Others are just really not sure what they want. And I think you started to touch on this, or, you know, in some significant ways touch on this around the idea of, or at least what came out for me was the idea of asking colleagues or family or friends, you know, what differentiates me?
Yes.
And to me, that was sort of a tickler around the idea of, you know what, that is something I really like. That is something that I can pursue. That's something that I'm experienced at, that I'm good at. And maybe I follow that trail down the path and see where it goes, see who does things like that, let folks know. Any other advice for folks who are just thinking, I'm not happy, but I have no idea what to do next. I don't know what's next for me.
So the action items I subscribe to, and again, this gets a lot of eye rolls, but I'm telling you, dig into yourself. People don't want to do it because it's messy. Think about it. Think about all the hype around therapy. Therapy's great. Everyone should go. It's wonderful. Now, I'm not saying it's not, but no one tells you this. No one tells you that you might leave half the time crying, or you might feel worse after a therapy session before you feel better. They forget that part, right? They don't tell you that. It's the same deal in terms of really digging deep with what you want to do. So take action. And action, start journaling. Again, trust me, I've been there. I'm like, the last thing I want to do is write in this journal. Journal. Things come out when you put pen to paper. Where do you want to go? The exercise of asking people. I have clients, I say, ask, we do this in waves, ask 10 people, make them different. A family member, a friend, an employee, a boss, someone who doesn't know you that well, someone who knows you well, from different aspects of your life. Because here's the deal. I worked with a photographer, a client of mine, who would say things like, see how those colors mesh together? And I'd say, what colors? I don't see what you're saying. Like, what was innately a talent to her? I said, I'm lucky I can have a Polaroid. Like, I have no clue what you're talking about. We take for granted what we bring to the table. Use these other people to start giving you a sense. And dollars to donuts. Every time I do this with a client, the strengths and the weaknesses that their outside people say are the exact same, just in different ways. Meaning, people see you. You're going to start to see trends, what you're good at, what your weaknesses are, kind of where you should fit. The other thing that I'm going to show you guys, and of course I'm going to move from my Zoom for a hot second, is this. You're going to think I'm crazy, but I send all of my clients this book. Now, you're going to be like, Jill, wasn't this book written in the 60s? Yes, it was. It is updated. It's a huge resource. Why? Chapters 4 and 5 of What Color is Your Parachute? They have exercises that start to get you to dig deep. Remember, think of that triangle I showed you guys. People want to start with the easy part. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, but job hunting, I'm going to start applying. It's bright, shiny object after bright, shiny object. You've got to lay the foundational work. Think about it this way. Say I have a ticket. I'm in the airport. I could get on any plane I want, right? I have a golden ticket. Well, I kind of need to know, am I going to Tahiti or Antarctica? Because those are real different flights. I'm packing different things. I'm sitting next to different people, a lot of different things. Think about it that way. You got to get clear. The clearer you get on who you are and where you want to be, the more you're going to be able to hone that job search and not grab those shiny, bright objects. You know, if I look at it this way, and nurse managers are amazing. Leadership in the hospital is amazing. I'm not saying anything against that, but I knew that wasn't for me. Could I have done that and easily gone that route? Absolutely. I knew that wasn't for me. It's knowing yourself and what's going to work and what's not going to work.
Jill, thank you so much. Really, this has been never enough time when we do these things. It's just been so inspiring and really practical, I think in all the best of ways. So I hope that folks gain as much as I feel like I did listening to this tonight. We always welcome your feedback, but I just want to give a big round of applause to you, Jill. Appreciate you being in this space, sharing your career with us, especially as a fellow alum. I think it's really important for folks to hear that. Yeah, no, thank you. Absolutely. And thanks to our attendees for taking time to be here.
Yes,
for sharing openly with your questions. Absolutely, absolutely. So stay in touch. And it was wonderful to have all of you here this evening. We will be sending follow-up in the slides and all that, because I know you probably, like me, want to take a look at them again and dig in around them, set up that network board and all those great tips that Jill shared tonight. So have a wonderful evening if you're on evening time. If you're somewhere else in the world, have a great rest of whatever it is. Take a minute to relax and refresh if you can find that somewhere in your lives. And I would love to stay in touch with you and love seeing your faces and your names. I know some of you, and some of you I hope I get to know better. So be well. Jill, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you, Monica. This was amazing.